Which teams had the worst 22-23 NBA season? Every year, we wait all summer to see what moves NBA front offices will pull to avoid ending up at the bottom of the league's barrel. But unfortunately for them, things don't always work out for the best, which gives us basketball enthusiasts plenty to talk about. Hello again, basketball fans, and welcome back to your favorite NBA channel, Hoop Vision. Today, we're discussing the teams that had the most underwhelming 22-23 season and what stopped them from having better performances. Let's dive in. Just before we start the countdown, you should know what was the criteria for making our list: the win-loss record, key players' injuries, underperforming in statistical categories, and overall season expectations. Since the trio of Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan retired, the Spurs have been in a rebuild mode, so them not winning many games doesn't come as a surprise. However, with a record of 22-60, they've managed to break Coach Pop's negative record since he took over the franchise. On top of that, they've managed to finish at the bottom of the league in multiple categories, including field goal percentage at 46.5%, three-point percentage at 34.5%, and plus-minus department at -10. What adds to the season being the worst for San Antonio was their record of 8-33, a 16 losing game streak, and a loss against Minnesota in which they've allowed 151 points. 10 years ago, if someone told you Coach Pop was about to have a season like that, you'd probably think them to be out of their mind. However, there are indicators suggesting this was a strategically planned move to obtain a generational talent, Victor Wembanyama. So, if there's a silver lining to losing 75% of the games in a season, the Spurs were indeed able to find it. There was a time when Portland was hard to deal with in the West. Damian Lillard and LaMarcus Aldridge were a duo that had enough potential so that Rip City could contemplate winning the championship in the upcoming years. But destiny had other plans for the franchise, and in 22-23, Portland was able to secure only 33 wins, which is a slight improvement compared to the previous one of only 27. Although Lillard had the best scoring season of his career with 32.2 points per game, that wasn't enough for the Blazers to touch the playoffs, let alone dream about making it a serious run. Dame's iconic 71-point performance against the Rockets is probably the only highlight of Portland's 22-23 season. Not only did they not manage to enter the playoffs, but were able to damage the relationship with their most loyal superstar and receive a trade request from him, making the previous season a true nightmare. Charlotte was one of those organizations nobody expected much from. However, things started to change when LaMelo Ball got drafted, and despite them still not being a contending franchise, no one can deny them being fun to watch. Drafting LaMelo proved to be the right decision as he showed plenty of flash in his game. The youngest among the Balls was on his way to also becoming the youngest player with at least 1,000 points, rebounds, and assists in his first 3 seasons, a record held by none other than LeBron James. However, the season 22-23 saw LaMelo play for only 36 games due to an ankle injury, and the trio of Rozier, Oubre, and Hayward was not able to pick up the pace, resulting in a less than mediocre season for the 27-55 Hornets. Since Michael Jordan sold his share in the franchise, it will be interesting to see how the team continues forward without the influence of one of the greatest players to ever grace the court. We may see his absence have a positive impact on the team due to some relieved pressure, and who knows, maybe that's what will allow Charlotte players to turn up the heat and surprise us with having a better record next year. Houston, we have a problem. Houston Rockets were among the favorites of landing Victor Wembanyama, but they shot themselves in the foot by winning the last 3 regular season games, which killed their chances even theoretically. We are talking about the team that managed to put on a 13-game losing streak, so it's not like they expected to make a huge accomplishment by tying 3 wins in a row. They were among the last in almost every existing league's category, so that fact alone solidifies their place on our list. The only reason why they were not seen as a bigger 22-23 loser was that they didn't set any expectations for themselves in the first place. The only upside of the horrible previous year is that they landed a 4th pick in the draft, and there have been rumors of James Harden wanting to return to Houston if he manages to get out of his awful situation with the Sixers. The Pistons have been in a slump for over a decade now, and the 2004 NBA championship seems like it happened a century ago. They were able to secure only 17 wins in the 22-23 season, ending up with the worst record in the whole league, which was still not enough to get them the first pick in the draft. One of their core players, Cade Cunningham, suffered a season-ending injury after playing just 12 games, leaving the Pistons without any hope of being a decent team. The losses resulted in the departure of coach Dwayne Casey, and the Pistons had trouble finding anyone willing enough to take their bench. After enough soul-searching, the Pistons office thought Monty Williams was the one who could change the franchise's downhill trajectory, signing him to a 6-year deal worth $78 million, the biggest coaching contract in the NBA history. The impact of this move remains to be seen. When Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert got traded away, Utah Jazz was expected to have something similar to a tanking season, but instead, they opened up the year with a 10-3 record and were the first seed in the West for a while. However, the team lost momentum and slowly started losing their position in the standings, dropping lower as the season went on. Their young core of Lauri Markkanen, Jordan Clarkson, and Kelly Olynyk did not have what you would call the worst of the seasons in terms of statistics and losing streaks, but considering they were leading the West for a while, not reaching the playoffs and ending up 12th in the conference earns them a spot on our list. You may be surprised by the Celtics making our list, but considering they were fighting for the title in the 21-22 NBA Finals, anything less than making a reappearance was bound to be labeled as a failure for them. Besides not making the finals in 2023, what hurts them even more is the way they let the opportunity slide. After defeating the Sixers in 7 games, they were seen as favorites against the Miami Heat, who had to fight their way into the playoffs alone, and everyone thought their luck had run out until that point. However, Jimmy Butler and the Heat took a commanding 3-0 lead and surprised everyone in the league. Boston was facing a huge embarrassment, and God only knows how they were able to come back to 3-3. Unfortunately for them, they couldn't prevail in another Game 7 of their playoff run, and Miami went to the finals against all odds, making the Celtics season an utter disappointment. Another team that made the playoffs but was also bad enough to make our list. When Rudy Gobert arrived in Minnesota, everyone was talking about the Wolves having one of the strongest center lines in the league. However, the trio of Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, and Anthony Edwards wasn't enough to make a serious run into the playoffs, as they got swept by the Joker's Denver Nuggets. The reason why their previous season can be considered a failure is that we didn't see any signs that would suggest optimism regarding the Wolves trying to contend for a championship. The fans have been waiting for KAT to find his mojo, but there's still a long way to go before he and Edwards can attack the throne in the West. However, there's still time considering Edwards' youth, so it'll be interesting to see if their front office manages to surround them with more promising talent. There's a reason why Luka Doncic is considered one of the basketball prodigies. After all, they don't call you Luka Magic unless you can do some really amazing stuff on the court. But unfortunately, basketball is a team game, and Luka cannot do it all by himself. What brings worry to the Mavs fans is the question of whether Luka can win even when surrounded by talent like Kyrie Irving. Yes, there's a strong argument that Kyrie got traded too late into the season, but they were at least expected to reach the playoffs if nothing else. Now that Luka has finished his run with Slovenia in FIBA's World Cup, he'll have a couple of weeks to regain his spirit and try to redeem himself alongside the popular Uncle Drew. And lastly, the team with the most disappointing season were the Philadelphia 76ers. We've previously discussed the process in one of our videos, and if there was a perfect moment to capitalize on Joel Embiid's MVP award, that was the 22-23 season, during which he was surrounded by another superstar in James Harden, and some solid role players like PJ Tucker, Tobias Harris, and Tyrese Maxey. Their loss against the Celtics in Game 7 of the second round was devastating not just because of the outcome, but because of how they carried themselves when faced with adversity. That game showed us that things were not working properly in Philly, and now it all makes more sense. James Harden took the player option but doesn't want to play, and there's a war between him and general manager which is creating a headache for everyone. And on top of that, Joel Embiid is reported to be thinking about leaving if things don't get better soon. The Sixers are in a very tough situation, and the reflection on their 22-23 season could only discourage them even further. Things are not looking pretty on their horizon, and if they don't fix their issues before the next season starts, they may find themselves on the top of our list again next year. That's it for today, dear friends. If you can think of any other team that deserved to make our list, be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. While you're waiting for more NBA news and updates, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Until next time.